Learn with Peppa Pig. Level 2. The Queen and Fix This Mess. Peppa Pig is in a garden. I can see the Queen. Queen sees the mud. I wish I had my boots. Will you join me? The Queen gets her boots. They all join in. The bedroom is a mess. We need to fix this mess. It will be a quick job. Soon the bedroom looks much better. That was fun. Daddy Pig cannot see the car. That was a quick car. The end. Learn with Peppa Pig, Level 4. Wait for Pedro. Peppa Pig is doing something new today.
Wow.
She is going on a trip to the museum. But there is a problem. Pedro Pony is late, says Madame Gazelle. He's late all the time, moans Peppa. I expect he is still in bed, jokes Susie Sheep. They are all correct. Pedro is still asleep. Wake up! Shrieks his mummy. It's 9 o'clock! Oh no! You're going to be late! Pedro yawns and slides out of bed. They chase the bus. Wait for me! Shrieks Pedro. I'm going to be late! Miss Rabbit presses the brake. The bus stops and Pedro jumps inside. Miss Rabbit takes the children around the museum. These royal gowns used to belong to kings and queens, he explains. They look like dressing up costumes, jokes Danny Dog. This room contains wildlife bones from a long time ago, explains Mr. Rabbit. Look at the size of that beast's jaws, exclaims Madame Gazelle. It might chew us up, Pedro gulps. Pedro stops to gaze at some insects in a frame. Mr. Rabbit continues into the next room, but Pedro stays behind. Wait 1 moment. Have you seen Pedro? Says Madame Gazelle when they get outside. No one can remember when they saw him. Madame Gazelle finds Pedro beside the insects. But it has taken so long to find him, the bus has left without them. Oh no! Mr. Rabbit lets Madame Gazelle take Pedro back in his car. Hello, ducks! Cries Pedro. Madame Gazelle and Pedro get back first. This will amaze Miss Rabbit, says Pedro. You would make a good bus driver. Wow! You're not late, Pedro! Exclaims Peppa. I am going to be on time from now on, replies Pedro. So long as I can have a lion at the weekend. The end. Learn with Peppa Pig. Level 4. The Paper Plane Contest. It was 7 o'clock in the morning, and Daddy Pig was reading his newspaper on the lawn. Peppa Pig asked, "Can we have some of your newspaper?" He handed some over. Peppa and George exploded into the house with their sheets of paper. Mummy Pig helped them make the paper into planes. "Let's go and play with the planes." Mummy Pig threw her plane first. It flew all the way to the field beyond the garden. "We should have a contest. If your plane flies the furthest, you win a prize." Peppa pretended to be a pilot. Her plane glided into the field, but George's crashed like a stone into the duck pond. George was silent. Peppa shrieked, "Mine flew furthest, I win!" George burst into tears. He wanted to win too. Daddy Pig went inside. He looked all over the room, crawled under the desk and looked in his briefcase. "I was sure I saw it in here." Aha! Peppa and George saw a big blue sheet behind the printer.
Wow.
It would make the biggest plane yet. They took it to Mummy Pig. She was the chief plane maker. Peppa and George took their new plane to Daddy Pig with pride. "I'm amazed," he said. "I hope it glides well," Peppa said. Daddy Pig explained, "Now this plane belongs to all of us. We are not competing, so we all win." Peppa nodded. The plane flew into the clouds and then landed in the field. Peppa and George both smiled and clapped. They flew paper planes for the rest of the day. They all counted to 3 and threw their planes. It was fun to win, but gliding lots of planes at the same time was even better. The end. Peppa Pig. The story of Peppa Pig. Once upon a time, there was a lovable, slightly bossy little piggy named Peppa. More than anything in the whole wide world, Peppa loved jumping up and down in muddy puddles. Mummy Pig was Peppa's mummy. She was very wise about most things. Mummy Pig would say, "Peppa, when you jump in muddy puddles, you must wear your boots." Daddy Pig was Peppa's daddy. He loved eating cookies and had a big round tummy. When Daddy Pig jumped in muddy puddles, he made a very big muddy splash. When Peppa's little brother George was born, Peppa helped look after him. And as soon as George was old enough, Peppa taught him how to jump in muddy puddles. "George," Peppa said, just like Mummy Pig, "if you jump in muddy puddles, you must wear your boots." George liked muddy puddles, but he liked his toy dinosaur more. Even though George couldn't speak yet, he could say one word very, very well. "Dinosaur!" Roar. Sometimes Peppa got a little bit annoyed with George. "George," she would say, "why do you always say dinosaur for everything? It's so boring. One day, Peppa, George, Mammy and Daddy Pig got into their little car and drove to their new house on top of a little green hill. Peppa was excited about the new house, but she was very excited about the very wet and extremely muddy puddles in the garden. "Can we go and jump in the muddy puddles?" asked Peppa. "It's nearly time for bed, Peppa," replied Mummy. "You'll have to wait until tomorrow." Peppa and George woke up very early the next morning and went to find Mummy and Daddy Pig. "Can we please go outside and jump in muddy puddles?" asked Peppa excitedly. "We're going to Granny and Grandpa Pig's house today, Peppa," replied Mummy Pig sleepily. "You can jump in muddy puddles there." After breakfast, it was time to leave, so Peppa and her family jumped into their little car. "Ready?" asked Daddy Pig cheerily. "Yes, Daddy Pig," everyone answered back. "Then let's go," shouted Daddy Pig. "Yippee!" cried Peppa. She couldn't wait to see Granny and Grandpa Pig's house and jump in muddy puddles. The family soon arrived at Granny and Grandpa's house. Peppa and George were very excited. They loved going to visit Granny and Grandpa Pig. "Granny Pig, Grandpa Pig," cried Peppa. "Baka eek," shouted George. "Hello, my little ones," answered Granny Pig. "Come inside." "Granny," said Peppa, "can I jump in muddy puddles, please?" "I think Grandpa Pig has something to show you first, Peppa," said Granny Pig. Peppa was a little disappointed. She really wanted to jump in muddy puddles. Grandpa Pig took Peppa and George to his vegetable garden. "This is where I grow my vegetables," said Grandpa Pig. "First, I plant some seeds." "Can we eat your yummy vegetables, Grandpa?" asked Peppa, forgetting all about muddy puddles. "We have to wait for them to grow a bit bigger," replied Grandpa. "Oh," gasped Peppa excitedly. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. "Oh dear," gasped Grandpa Pig. "That was thunder. That means it's going to rain. We should hurry inside before we get wet." Peppa, George and Grandpa Pig ran inside as fast as they could to get out of the rain. Peppa and George watched the rain splish, splash, splosh down the window. George started to cry. "Don't cry, George," said Peppa. "It's only rain." But George wasn't crying because it was raining. George was crying because he had lost Mr. Dinosaur. Peppa searched upstairs, downstairs, and even in the toilet, but she couldn't find Mr. Dinosaur anywhere. Just then she had an idea. Peppa ran outside and found a very wet Mr. Dinosaur in Grandpa's very muddy vegetable garden. She ran inside and gave Mr. Dinosaur to George. George was very happy. "The rain stopped," cried Peppa. "What can we do now?" "I have a good idea, Peppa," said Daddy Pig, pointing outside. "Hooray!" "Hooray!" cheered Peppa, seeing the muddiest puddles ever. Peppa had been so busy looking at Grandpa's vegetables and searching for Mr. Dinosaur, she had forgotten all about jumping in muddy puddles. Peppa loved jumping up and down in muddy puddles more than anything in the whole wide world. All of Peppa's family loved jumping up and down in muddy puddles more than anything in the whole wide world. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa the Mermaid. One afternoon, Peppa and Rebecca Rabbit were playing mermaids.
"Aren't mermaids amazing, Rebecca?" said Peppa. "I'd love to have a shiny tail and swim underwater every day."
Peppa pretended to swim around the room, swishing her imaginary tail. "Peppa," called Daddy Pig, "time for lunch." At lunch, Peppa couldn't stop talking about mermaids.
"Mermaids only eat starfish-shaped sandwiches," she said. "Mermaids can swim and dance at the same time." "Let's have an under-the-sea party," said Rebecca. "Yes," cheered Peppa. "I can dress as a mermaid."
"Lovely idea," said Mummy Pig. "We can have it this Sunday." Peppa and Rebecca made some under-the-sea party invitations. "Very shiny," said Daddy Pig.
"Just like mermaids' tails," said Peppa.
The next day, Peppa handed out the invitations.
"I'm having a mermaid under-the-sea party tomorrow," she told everyone at the playgroup. "It's going to have a beach, a disco, an underwater tea party with starfish-shaped sandwiches."
That night, Peppa was very excited.
"I've told everyone there's going to be a beach, a disco, and a starfish-shaped sandwiches at my party tomorrow."
"That party isn't tomorrow, Peppa. It's on Sunday," said Mummy Pig. "You'll have to wait one more day."
"But I told everyone the party was tomorrow,"
said Peppa. She pulled out an invitation from under her pillow.
"Oh no,"
said Mummy Pig, looking at the invitation.
"We forgot to put the date on the invitations."
"Well, we'll just have to do what we can for tomorrow then," said Daddy Pig, smiling. "Don't worry, Peppa," said Mummy Pig. "We'll sort something out. Now get some sleep and we'll see you in the morning." Mummy and Daddy Pig raced downstairs to do some research on the family computer. "Now let's see what we can find," said Daddy Pig. The computer screen filled with lots of amazing ideas for an under-the-sea party. "Those look great, Daddy Pig," said Mummy Pig. "But how are we going to do them all for tomorrow?" Daddy Pig thought hard. "I'm not sure," he said, yawning. "I am a little bit tired. Maybe we should get some help." "Yes," agreed Mummy Pig. "What about that big red button?" "Miss Rabbit, emergency party planner and entertainer extraordinaire," Daddy Pig read. "Perfect," said Daddy Pig. He pressed the big red button. Just then, there was a knock at the door.
"Miss Rabbit, emergency party planner and entertainer extraordinaire," said Miss Rabbit. "I hear you are in need of an under-the-sea party."
"Yes," said Daddy Pig, telling Miss Rabbit their ideas. "For tomorrow."
"No problem,"
said Miss Rabbit. "You go to bed. I've got this." In the morning, Peppa and her family woke up and walked downstairs. When they reached the living room, they were amazed. Their house had been transformed into an underwater wonderland.
"Look, George, there's a beach," gasped Peppa, "and waves."
"Wow,"
said Daddy Pig. The living room looks just like the Great Barrier Reef from our trip to Australia. Peppa found some costumes hanging up. "Ooh!" she squealed in delight. "This mermaid costume has the shiniest tail I've ever seen." Mammy and Daddy Pig went into the kitchen and looked in the fridge. It was full of delicious food. "Miss Rabbit is amazing," said Daddy Pig. "She really is," agreed Mammy Pig. That afternoon, Peppa and Georgie's friends arrived. They were all dressed in underwater costumes. "Hello," said Peppa, swimming up to greet them. "I'm Peppa the Mermaid, and this is George the Crab. Welcome to our under-the-sea home." "Wow!" everyone gasped. After everyone had arrived, Miss Rabbit swam into the room. "Hello, sea creatures," she began. "It's time for your underwater adventure." "Hooray!" cheered Peppa and her friends. First, Miss Rabbit asked the children to wiggle their toes in the sand. "Ew, it feels all tickly," said Peppa. Next, Miss Rabbit handed out seashells. "Put the shells to your ears and tell me what you can hear." "The sea!" shouted all the children. Then Miss Rabbit gave them some smelly toy fish. "Take a good sniff. What can you smell?" "Ugh!" shouted the children. "Fishy!" "Well, we are at the seaside," said Miss Rabbit. "Now, sea creatures," said Miss Rabbit, "are you ready to dive down to the bottom of the ocean for an underwater tea party?" "Yes!" shouted the children. After everyone had eaten, Miss Rabbit taught the children how to swans. "It's swimming and dancing at the same time," yelled Miss Rabbit over the music, frantically waving her arms around. "Follow me. Swim, swim, big fish, little fish." "Being a mermaid is amazing, Daddy," cried Peppa. "Can we have an under-the-sea party next week?" "We'll see, Peppa," joked Daddy Pig as he swanced around the room. "Being a mermaid is a lot of fun." The end.
Hi kids, did you have
Peppa Pig. Peppa visits the Great Barrier Reef. Peppa is on holiday in Australia, visiting her friend Kylie Kangaroo.
Wow!
"I love it at your house, Kylie," says Peppa.
I could stay here forever, decides Daddy Pig.
"It's great having you stay," says Mrs. Kangaroo, "but I have to go to work today."
Mrs. Kangaroo is a marine biologist. She studies creatures that live in the sea.
"Do creatures in the sea have bridges to swim through and treasure to play with?"
wonders Peppa. No, snorts Daddy Pig. That's just the stuff that people put in fish tanks. Mrs. Kangaroo takes everyone down to the beach. She points to the sea. "This," she says, "is my office."
"How can you work in the sea?"
asks Peppa.
"With this submarine,"
says Mrs. Kangaroo. "Hop in." The submarine goes down deep under the water. Peppa gasps.
"It's all the colours of the rainbow."
"That is coral," says Mrs. Kangaroo. "It's made of lots and lots of tiny creatures. We call it the Great Barrier Reef."
Wow!
The coral is very pretty. Peppa would like to take some home. "We must never ever take anything away from here," says Miss Kangaroo.
"The reef is home to lots of sea creatures,"
explains Kylie.
"Look."
Giant Turtle swims up to say hello.
There's a little bridge, says Peppa, just like in the fish tank.
Except there's no treasure chest, of course, chuckles Daddy Pig. George spots something in the sand. Mrs. Kangaroo blinks. It's a chest full of gold coins. George has found a treasure chest. Hooray! The submarine carefully picks it up.
Wait,
cries Peppa.
we must never ever take anything away from the reef.
Only natural things, says Miss Kangaroo. These gold coins don't belong here. Mr. Kangaroo loads the treasure chest onto the camper van.
These gold coins will pay for lots more marine research,
says Kylie. Mrs. Kangaroo smiles. That was a good day at the office.
Yes,
Snorts Peppa.
it was.
The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.